All right, let's see if fourth time is a charm. I was trying to record these messages that came to me last night. And the first thing I want to say is that when you're opening up this communication by sitting and letting visual, audio, sensory impressions come to you, when you're starting to get out of your own way and you're starting to expand your I don't know, let's call it an aura, but I don't mean it in the same sense that other people call auras. When you're expanding yourself and like letting more things communicate to you, that communication may continue after you get up, go about your day, you do different things. You could be washing dishes and get an impression or a knowing or something that perhaps you don't write it down, but just think about maybe writing it down or saying it to yourself out loud, some sort of recording device in that way. And that just shows that whatever, or that communicates that whatever is coming through to you, it's saying, I think it's basically acknowledging that you are receptive and that you're listening. And so as you're opening up this listening space, show that you're listening by recording it in some way. And you may find that you get messages at various times of the day that you may not technically be ready, and whatever that means to be ready. And when something occurs to you, you could send it in a text message to a friend or to yourself, write yourself an email, or have a notepad by the couch when you're watching a movie, as I did last night, because things were coming to me while I was watching the movie. And the reason I say that is there's certain things that you might think are just, regular things that you do in your life. It might be that thing is giving you some impressions or clues or openings into your own thinking, or openings into some revelations that perhaps you haven't considered before. And it's nice to be able to write that down for yourself and show whatever this communication is that you're open, that you're listening, and that you're paying attention. So as you're practicing opening up this listening space, doing meditations, you may find that it's super easy for things to come through when you're not technically prepared or in that physical or mental space. Could happen anytime. So now what I'm getting slightly hung up on is a way to say verbally what I know. Well, there's a few different points here as I'm going over these notes. So I'll just speak a little bit to each as I try to connect dots. As you're imagining more beautiful things, more beautiful situations, circumstances, one thing to to consider is everyone getting what they truly need. If you tap into that, everyone getting what they truly need. At first I was thinking, oh, what if everyone could get what they want? But sometimes we don't know exactly what we want, but there's a part of us that knows what we need. And sometimes that part of us will put us through things in life that we would not have signed up for, knowing what was going to happen. But through that particular situation or challenge, we grow. And imagining more beautiful could be pulling towards yourself or wishing that we all get what we need through more easy lessons. And that really does not convey what I want it to convey, because there's some really hard lessons, and I'm the type of person where I have been very stubborn and resistant, and it takes a lot to get my attention. I don't want to be that way anymore. So when I say wishing for easy lessons, I wish that we all could pay attention to what is calling for us to notice it and to integrate or to learn, and not get to spaces that are truly difficult. I think it's great to wish that everyone had an easier time, and perhaps you are very lucky in your life and you live in a comfortable home and you have good relationships around you. But as you know, life comes with challenges. But there's that feeling when you just imagine everyone has everything that they need. And imagining that happening in fun, curious, easier ways than perhaps we see them going through. And to come back to watching this movie while having a notepad, this movie invited a lot of fear, and you know, it's a scary show, okay? And there is some tense things that happen that reminded me of all the shitty things that can happen on Earth, and like our wild imagination, and why would we even imagine the things that people put on these shows and on these movies. And trust me, I say that, but I've watched all of them, okay? How far we have come in our treatment of one another. And I know that this is not a blanket statement across the board. I don't want it to sound like, oh, we're so much better than we were, although I am saying that. I'm hoping that, I guess, without actually knowing it, without actually being the fly on the wall for everyone's human experience throughout history and time, and knowing what exactly is happening now, I do think that we are collectively, even though individually bad things still happen, collectively we're actually getting better, and we are able to put these stories, these impressions, these stories that we want to tell. How amazing is it that we can watch something and gain empathy? It's the more stories we know, the more we know how we feel about that and the more we process that, and there can be a good part of it where we can practice digesting the thoughts and emotions that come up even while we're just watching a scary show for a couple hours. And we can also listen to the clues embedded within the stories that we're told, or while we're watching a movie or doing anything, we can still have that communication open to spirit, being this point of understanding where we gain these intuitions that help us, that can be guidance for us on how to process the stuff that comes our way. Okay, I'm going to have to separate this point a little bit in order to reconnect it. And I'm hoping it connects in your mind without me doing too much work to connect it, because I'm not really sure how to do that right now. That when you've come to a point in your own inner space where perhaps you're feeling more peaceful, more centered, and fear arises in you again, or some other emotion arises in you. But for me, the fear, it coming back. When something arises in you again, it can be something that you're able to meet with more wisdom, more understanding. And it could be that as that thing arises in you again, that you are learning how to process it a little bit better, and or, I mean, really it's both of these. It could be something where it arises up in you so that you understand how to teach it, how to guide others, how to understand. It's like reminding yourself of where you were a while ago, and at the same time you know where you are in your processing now. But it's good to be reminded of where you were before and feel that again, so that you can help other people through that guidance. Because sometimes people are in a place that they've forgotten where they started, and they say some things as if they're just understood by people. There's so many phrases and sayings that actually sometimes make sense, but it takes you a long time to be like, oh, that's why people have that phrase or that thing. Like, I get it now, but it takes a long time to understand. So being able to be in that beginner's mind, if you will, to be reminded of where it was you were, and you're able to reflect on your own process, that equips you to be able to speak to others about whatever this thing is that is arising back in you, to be seen again, to be processed. Okay, so there's that one. And as I was watching, I was feeling these feelings well up: fear, anxiety, a sense of injustice about the things that have happened to people that I wish I didn't see, that I didn't know about. At the same time, I'm insanely curious about all of that stuff. So I've read about things that I would not encourage anyone else reading about. I imagined that these emotions went deep into the soil of my body, or the soil of the heart space, when you're doing that meditation where your roots are in the earth. There's something that needs to be recycled, be digested. You send it, it's down in the soil and you push it. Imagine pushing the emotion up into a garden. And I don't know what this garden looks like to you. Mine is in this glowing night garden. So it's dark and all of these plants are, you can see the electric charge in them, I guess. And the emotions, whatever it is I'm feeling, instead of holding on to it and letting it be buried in the soil, it's like a plant finding the cracks through which to reach the sunlight and grow. And you're pushing the emotion into this garden. And I say push, but it's not difficult if you just let it happen in that way. You start to feel the emotion. You realize this is something that can be reinvented, recycled, and you imagine a more beautiful way that we could learn this lesson. It doesn't have to be in this dark, scary way. It could be a different way that we learn this lesson. And you don't have to think about the situation, I guess is what I want to say. You don't have to think about this beautiful situations. You just have, you can put it into this imaginary garden where it becomes more beautiful on its own. You can watch it move up from the soil through these electrically charged plants and witness what happens. For me, I imagine these colors and these currents and the way that something keeps unfurling, or maybe it dances in this night breeze. Whatever it is that comes to you, that's one way that really helped me to process some fairly strong emotions while watching this movie. And there's a lot more that I want to say to all of that. But I guess I will just have to revisit this for the flow to happen, to speak to the rest of it. It's so interesting to feel like, oh yes, I know this so deeply now. I understand it so much. But if you haven't heard someone say it in words, sometimes, for me anyway, I'm a little bit lost in trying to retell the entire thing. But I do feel strongly motivated to invite you to write down your impressions, show that you are listening, that you are open to having these impressions or experiences as you're doing something as mundane as watching a movie. And maybe that's what we need more, is to be mobile with our spirituality, I suppose is the way I want to say that. To invite magic to happen wherever we are and whatever we're doing. It's not something that you step in and out of. It's, if you want it all the time with you, it can be with you all the time. And I believe I've recorded a meditation where you do invite messages to come to you at any time that you are listening. The way that I perhaps was more attuned to as a child, and I think as children, our brains work a little bit differently as children. They might be a little bit more open. You have your experience of being a child. You know what I'm talking about, where you have this sense that your feelers are just out there, and perhaps you're a person who learned how to rein them in order to protect yourself. But now it's time to just realize, oh, those feelers are actually part of this heart space, and I can go as far as I want. And whatever comes up in that space, I'm now older, wiser, more experienced, more capable, more equipped to deal with what comes up. And rather than feeling like you do have that experience and there's so much to process and keeping yourself stuck with your feelers, and I'm imagining an octopus in a box. Let's not be an octopus in a box. Let's be roaming the ocean and being all the different things that we can be, that we can experience. Let's put our feelers back out there and realize that we actually have the power to put our energy into the space, reach our energy through our feelers and help other people, rather than be hurt by what we feel or want to pull our feelers back. I say that to myself. You don't have to do that. You do not. If you don't want to have your feelers out there all the time, do what you need to do to protect yourself from feeling certain things. These are just impressions and invitations if you feel also called to think about things differently than you may read about. And again, this is all just an invitation for you to listen to what you need to hear. The lessons don't have to be the same for any of us. We all have our own experiences, our own things that we've learned, and our own guidance, because we're all on different pathways based on the choices that we make and the experiences that we've had exposure to and the way that we think about them and process them. But maybe you just want to step outside of yourself and think about how a tree processes everything that happens around it, everything it sees and feels. How does a little lizard do it? What does the little lizard see and experience? So alien to us, so wildly different, yet on this planet. And choose whatever you want in order to just pretend you know what that could be like. And maybe it tells you what it's like if you go into a journey practice and ask. That's probably going to give you a better entry than than trying to think of the things yourself. Either way, either one is good practice. And let those impressions teach you something about how to approach what's happening in yourself when you go throughout the day. I might as well just say this one, but going back to the garden, where you're having these emotions and you're letting the emotions become energy and sparkle up through the charged flora in the night garden. I just have to add that for myself. I was thinking, oh, we are each a psychopomp. We're each helping. When we're doing that, we're each helping recover something from the depths and bring it up into a flourishing, up into, if it's a plant and it's the sun, into the light. It's a flower trying to reach its head into the light to do what it does. But the psychopomp part is embodying all that came before. However it comes to you, if it's a movie, if it's a story, if it's your own experience, which it often is. I'm hoping that your experiences in this life are more beautiful than they were for your ancestors. And in that way, we are each a progression of this embodying everything that came before in order to heal it, in order to be it, in order to see it. And that is how we digest. That is how we move between Yes. Okay. I will leave it there. Thank you for listening, and be as you are. Be as you are and be breathed. Be as you are and be nourished by the blood in your veins, like the water nourishes the earth with her oceans and tributaries and lakes. Be nourished. Be as you are and be breathed. Like the breath that enlivens our body. Let your mind enliven your experience. The wind of the breath constantly moving the thoughts, exploring the space. Be as you are and be charged within. Let the hair on your arms stand up. Remember what you're doing. You're this divine glow reaching back into being. Whatever that means for you, whatever you want to learn here. That is for you to listen, to learn, to decide, to act on. May we know the power of our words, the power of our hearts, the power of our minds. Peace. prosperity, connection, belonging, fulfillment, adventure, security, and freedom to all, to all, to all.
Thank you.